As we heard part of the story of youth going to places that they should not. And so the next area that we have, I believe the title was, Mike gave me the inspiration, Youth Shenanigans. And I think the resiliency for the agency, Clint also had hair down to his shoulders at one time too. Our administration, gives us permission to do what we do with the internet and to give teachers the best for access. But as you all know, for some reason, our young people get onto websites where they really should not go to. And so, have any of you here had youth go to websites they shouldn't go to? Do I have a show of hands? So it's been an issue. So I just want to, on this subject, and I'm sure there's going to be discussion on it, to keep your eyes and ears open, because it's how you react to it and how you deal with it, because you have to get those young people back into class, and what are your strategies? And it's easy to lock everything down. Well, one kid does one thing, you all are going to get penalized. But then you're neglecting education, everybody. So it's one of the greatest challenges our schools have. And I heard rumor that some kids in public schools do the same thing. So, and I heard some of our own children, I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm going to turn it over, and just so that you can hear some of their experiences, some of their solutions, and here we go.
I'm going to read some notes on this one. So 100% of the issues that we have are with students misusing the computers comes from the research function. Okay. Right now, the research function, again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. The research function bypasses your firewalls. And basically, a student can look up anything in the research function and get images and GIFs, short looping videos, and they can cut and paste those into documents. And if they're not smart enough, which occasionally happens, and they save those documents, then later we can go back and look at that. Otherwise, as we pointed out, they're lost in the moment unless you are monitoring. Now, we don't have a Dagny, so you have a Dagny, right? But so it's difficult. I know that my teachers, SoftLink's a wonderful tool. We actually have it accessed through iPads, which is great, but that still means someone's walking around the room monitoring rather than teaching, which is a huge thing at my place. I would rather we were teaching and moving them along. So it is a bit of a trade-off. So there's nothing to stop them from looking at that right now. This is a huge issue. And again, that's where most of our stuff comes from. So we use the monitoring software. It's worked out well when you hit that red button and you sort of block the access for the student. At one day, I accidentally hit the button and blocked every student in the room. I thought it was going to be a riot, but you have to hit that button again and unlock them. But the other thing, too, is that as soon as a student gets blocked, he can log out and log back in 10 seconds. And that button is not historically staying with the student. It stayed in the moment. So that's something else, I guess, we need to work on. We have I don't know, Andrew, did you bring copies of this just in case? We have a thing for the students, protocol for inappropriate computer use. And so we give them, 4 strikes like everybody else. Ours are a little different. And the first violation means they're off for a day. So as soon as we catch them, and of course, these guys never do anything wrong. So we're constantly having to, you remember that picture? Yeah, I get some very disturbing emails from Andrea about some topics. And I have seen some not so great things. Thanks for saving all those. And then we immediately, by the way, share it with OYA. Thank you. That is a great thing because most of this stuff goes against their treatment. It really does. As much as we joke about pornography, we have sex offenders. As much as we joke about gang stuff, they're looking up headlines and they're finding out when Johnny got arrested. So that kind of stuff's important to push up. And then they also deal with it on their end. We handle it in our way with a computer violation. We also have music in our facility, right? And so we use that as a tool, positive human development. And so we want to give them some positive things to work towards. When these guys do not have their music, it is the end of the world for them. So they'll do whatever it takes to not have that happen. I just looked at our list the other day. We're down to about 10 guys that are off computers right now out of 50. We only have 50 guys. That's big for us. That number came down from what, like 15 or 20 a little while ago. So they're getting the message. That's about all I got. How about you? What are you going to share, Michael? Any good stuff out that way?
I could. I did used to have hair down my shoulders, and it is Peter Frampton's birthday, so I would just like to point out those two facts. Just from my perspective, I think as a son of an educator, I mean, my dad was principal of the high school I attended, which I tell kids that nobody had it worse than me. So trust me on that. It's almost worse than being a preacher's kid. And if I was a superintendent as well, but there's just a great commitment to education. So when Frank floated the idea of just kind of flooding us with, technology, we just, decided that we were just going to be committed to learning. And we figured the kids would be our best teachers and we weren't going to panic. The second thing, is that most of these kids know more about technology than a lot of our staff. So we're always going to be behind the eight ball a little bit. I mean, I whip out my whatever kind of phone this is, and I mean, I have kids scoff at me for I have this ancient of days Samsung something that doesn't do anything. I think they can say, well, do you do this? Do you do that? I have it on easy settings. So these kids are already running laps around me. So it's just the kind of the idea that the kids will kind of show us where the leaks are. We just kind of follow them, and like you said, we plug them, but we're not going to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. The vast majority of the kids that we have come in and they're in absolute need of educational kind of remediation to catch up on credits, and when kids, at least kids at Oak Creek, come to us, they've left lives of chaos. And where they're kind of managing and trying to handle about 25 different variables. And we give them lots of structure and a lot of predictability, and we reduce the number of variables they have from 25 down to 3. And that energy goes somewhere, and it usually goes to a very great place, which is, educational achievement. And we would be absolutely handicapping our kids, especially with these kids with one of their vulnerabilities around education, with not giving them the absolute best in terms of access to technology and innovative ways of kind of learning and using technology. If you've ever been to the Moody building as a former superintendent of McLaren, what Michael Conn has done there in his philosophy of kind of giving kids the absolute greatest, technological stuff that they'd find in community college is just right on the money. And it's the same thing if we're teaching 8th graders or 10th graders or what have you. So I think we just have to be open to learning and not panic and just kind of roll with kind of what they give us. We're not, and obviously I'd reserve the right not to panic if there's a huge security breach. I mean, if we got drones landing in the courtyard or something like that, I might be a little bit more, might raise my blood pressure. But if a kid figures out that of the 30, 40 Chromebooks we have, that one of the cameras wasn't turned off, and figures that out, that they can take a picture and then find some backdoor way into Facebook and post a Facebook post, yeah, we're not going to take away the birthday. We're going to make them a little uncomfortable, but, they'll be back doing the educational stuff soon enough because it's that important. So, and the best lesson I learned about all this was from my brother, who is a geek, and he was, and by the way, his dad, which is our dad, was not the principal of the high school he attended, so he had a much easier gig than I did. But anyway, I digress. But he told me that most of the, the software and the application they have that is only going to catch, that's trying to block inappropriate sites and access, is only going to catch about 80% of it. So he basically told me, he says, you need to kind of chill out and just realize that this is going to be part of the deal. And kids, they'll test stuff. And you know what? What we call that? We call that normal. I mean, we had some kids who figured out some way of kind of helping each other in Odyssey. And so one who was really good in earth science, but not so good in something else, they're kind of basically helping each other out. And when we found out about it, our staff, I could have hugged them all. They just said, kids cheating in school. Yeah, that's never happened. So let's just not kind of lose our minds over some of the stuff. Part of it is just, that learning of adolescence. And I've never met a 17-year-old that has it all together. So they're going to screw it up, and we're going to help them kind of fix it and not screw it up so much the next time.
Well, let me start by saying I am blessed to have probably one of the greatest resources in the state of Oregon and probably within the United States in terms of Dagny Brown, who oversees our college and all our IT stuff. Dagny is instrumental. She has helped not only people locally, but across this here United States when it comes to college and internet and things like that. And a lot of the things that we do at McLaren with college and with Moody would not even be remotely possible without the staff who make it happen. Some of the shenanigans that we have run into, there's quite a few of them, as we have anywhere between 45 to 60 guys in college every single term, online activity that they're doing, plus almost every single one of them has a Chromebook that they have access to on the unit. So we have learned firsthand some of the things that they will do, and just to give you a quick rundown of some of those so you know what to anticipate is one of the things we discovered with a student who was accessing pornographic materials, which Dagny and I were trying to figure out how he got to this on a Chromebook that has no save. You can't save anything on a Chromebook. That's one of the great things about it. So we're still trying to figure this out. And so one night I started walking around campus with a Chromebook that was turned off. But while I was at the school prior to that, I had gone to the websites where he is at and hovered over a couple of the little video clips that you can, when you Google, right? You Google and then you go to these websites and you get these little 5-10 minute clips. Well, so what we found was that if you were online and you hovered over that when you left, it was still in the queue and he could go back to his unit and watch that because there was enough memory saved to where he could watch any pornographic video that he had hovered over. So because it was just enough memory for him to actually be able to do that. So making sure that you have policies in place and processes in place. I actually had to tip my hat to him because I said, this is unique. Not to say he didn't have consequences for that, but there was also a part of acknowledging his technical skills in doing that. So, one of the things is with the safe mode, making sure that safe mode, that it doesn't get turned off, is one of those things that they can manually do with those things. So watching for those things. Other things that we've had students do to be, yeah. Oh, yeah. So yes, they can. So because we tried this, Rich, right? So if you, it doesn't matter if you're on it, and as soon as you go offline, if you have hovered over that video, you go back and you're offline wherever. You just put your headphones on, and you don't close that page. Now remember, you can't close the page, right? Because the page, so you leave the page minimized at the bottom, but when you go back to it, lo and behold, you have any infinite number of videos that you can watch. So that's one thing to be aware of. Yes. Yeah. That's Yahoo. I don't want to give Google. Thank you. It was Yahoo videos in Yahoo. That's right. Yeah, we had then we had exploring. Yeah. So these are search engines because there are search engine issues that we come up with. So different search engines allow certain things. Yeah, Gary. Yeah. So, and that's one of the things as we learn, right? We learn as we go along, right? And so another one with CIS that we're all kind of mandated to have access to. We had a youth who was exploring, doing what he was supposed to do for a career, and he ended up going on to CIS and finding one of the few colleges in the state of Oregon that allows you to post on a calendar. So it's open to the public, right? So he goes through the calendar and he finds this publicly posted calendar, and he decides to post on there some varying things that actually ended up potentially leading to Homeland Security needing to be involved. because of what he wrote, what was going to take, and it was one of those things that was when we talk about CIS and we talk about the Rachel server, we're talking about guys who do have access to things, and you need to be aware of it, because as I got a contact about the IP, we traced the IP address back to the computer, and we had identified who it was within a matter of Donald, about 10 minutes. I mean, it felt like 10 minutes. So, and we traced it back to the kid. So that's one of the things we try to work with CIS to disable some of those links that are already open to the public. Yep. So the last thing I'll share with you is just the email accounts to be wary about. That the one thing we ran into is a student with an email account recently sentenced not too long ago. Still had some feelings about his case and the way it was covered in the media, and so he found the local reporter who he did not agree with about how they covered his case, and decided to email her directly all the things that she had that were not, he did not find acceptable about his case, and then started to deplete his case in that email. So there are, and these are big, serious issues. These are not minor things. So one thing with Homeland Security, although we make light of it, this is not a minor issue, nor is it the contacting of the media to talk about your case that's pending. So when you go into this world, be prepared for what you are going to encounter, because you need to have a supportive group. That's where Frank and Tracy and OIA and the superintendents and the IT departments are very supportive of, yes, we're going to have these. It's an individual thing. It's not necessarily a group wide. So those are a little few of our shenanigans.